We can create fade-ins and fade-outs at the beginning or end of audio regions. Let's start with the basics and apply a fade-in to this drum loop. First, make sure that Pro Tools is in slip mode so that we don't have to worry about snapping to the grid. With the selector tool in hand, let's highlight a small portion at the leading edge of this drum region. Something like that. Now go to the Edit menu, move down to the bottom here for fades, and select Create. Notice that we can also use the key command Control or Command F. Our fades dialog is going to pop up. This allows us to select and adjust the curve of this fade. We're going to cover all these fade parameters throughout the series, but for now, let's just take a look at what a fade-in actually looks like on our audio region. Hit OK. Now we can see the fade-in applied at the beginning of the region. This is represented by this line running from the bottom of the waveform up to the top. When we create a fade, we also create a fade file which can be modified and deleted if need be. All the fades residing in a particular session have their own folder, appropriately called the Fade Files folder. Try saying that 3 times fast. Fade Files folder, Fade Files folder, Fade Files folder. Let's have a listen to how this sounds. There we have a simple, really quick little fade-in. These are great to apply when you're worried about a click or a pop at the start of a region. Now let's try creating a fade-out. The same concept applies for fade-outs, only they're at the trailing edge of the audio region instead of at the beginning. Once again, let's just select a small portion here. Make sure you select the very end of the region or it's not going to work. Hit Command or Control F and hit OK. Now let's try listening to this one. It's not as apparent because there's a little bit of silence at the end of this region, but you get the idea. To remove a fade, such as this crappy fade out here, just double click in the faded area and hit delete. There it goes. We can also resize the length of a fade using the trimmer tool. Select it here and move down to this area where we have our fade in. Click and drag to resize it. You can see this yellow bar here helping us figure out where it is. There we go. That looks good. Another way to create a fade is to use the Smart tool. Click this bar up here to select it. Now, if we move the cursor to the top right of this region, we can see the cursor change from the Selector tool to the Fade tool, which looks like a box with 2 triangles in it. Click, and we can drag this back and forth to change the length of the fade we want to apply. When we release the mouse button, the fade is created. Let's delete this fade in. There's also one more way to create a quick fade in or fade out. Using the Selector tool, place the cursor at the point in the region where you'd like the fade in to end. Let's say right about here. Now go to the Edit menu, Fades, and select Fade to Start. There we go. This works for fade outs as well. Let's delete the fade out that's there. Move the cursor, and this time choose Fade to End. Let's delete all the fades we created by double-clicking on them and hitting delete. Crossfades are used for fading between 2 regions of audio that are next to each other. This can be useful for avoiding clicks or pops that might occur when you're transitioning between 2 different audio files. Let's try it. Let's cut a small portion out of the middle of this region. To do that, just select it and press delete. There it goes. Now we have 2 regions here. Let's move the region on the right so it's right next to the region on the left. Boom. Now, using our Selector tool, let's highlight the area across these 2 regions. Now hit Control or Command F. Here's our fade dialog again. This allows us to adjust every aspect of our crossfade. Once again, we'll go through this later on, so for now, just hit OK. Now let's listen to it. It worked, no pops or clicks. Definitely didn't sound good, but it worked. We can also perform fades on multiple tracks at once. This is great for adding a quick fade in to all tracks. Let's load up a new example that has 3 audio files on it. Using the selector tool, click on the first track to place the cursor where you'd like a fade in to end. Now holding down Shift, click on tracks 2 and 3. Now we can see the cursors on all 3 tracks. Now go to the Edit menu, Fades, and select Fade to Start. Voila! Notice that the default fade that's created is a straight linear line. We can change this by going to the Setup menu and selecting Preferences. Now select the Editing tab. We can choose the default fade in, fade out, and crossfade type using these buttons. Click the Fade In button. A dialog comes up that's nearly identical to the fades dialog we saw earlier in the video. Here we can change the default fade in to whatever we like by just clicking and dragging. Again, we'll explain this window in detail later on. Hit OK. There you have it, the fades and crossfades basics.